Let's say that you're working with a company that has an online store and a physical store. If you want to track those offline purchases and send them to Facebook for better ad optimization, then this video is exactly what you need. Let's say that I'm working with a business that sells various t-shirts. They have an online store, but also they have a physical store where people can buy. And they also have some loyalty cards that offer people discounts. So if people in a physical store use their loyalty card, then the store will be able to understand and know which particular user or which particular person made a purchase. Because let's say that an email address is tied to a loyalty card. So what we could do here is, let's say that a purchase happens in a physical store, the user uses the loyalty card, and then that purchase event is sent to our server-side Google Tag Manager container. Now, the most difficult part, and the part that I cannot technically show you in this video, is having someone to send that event from the point of sale, or let's say from the physical store, to your server-side Google Tag Manager container. The best I can do in this video is just show you like a mock-up, but in reality there are different point of sale systems. They might send data in different structures, so there is no universal way to do this. But let's say that in my case, when the purchase happens in the physical store, I told them to send data to my server-side Google Tag Manager endpoint. So this is the URL of my server-side container. In your case, it might be a subdomain that will work as well. And what I did is that I told them to send the request to this particular path right here. This will just help me to distinguish events coming from the point of sale system more easily. You don't have to enter webhook. It can be POS, point of sale, for example, but I decided to have this one right here. And this is a sample data structure. Of course, in real life, these parameters should be replaced with real user data and purchase data. But this is what I will be using in this particular video. So together with the purchase, I will get the customer information because let's say this user used a loyalty card. And also there is some purchase information right here, like total value, then items purchased. And yeah, so we could configure our server-side GTM to send this data to Facebook. So the first thing that we need to do is to configure server-side container to accept this incoming information. Here I have a server-side container, which is hosted on Stape. Right now, this container is pretty much empty, except that I think it has only the GA4 client, but that's the default when you create a container. But the problem with the GA4 client is that it accepts only GA4 data. Any other custom data, for example, this information right here, won't be accepted. So we need to use a custom client designed to accept this custom information. In this video, I will be using Stape's data client, so I will post a link to this page below the video. Once you open it, you can scroll down, then go to data client template, and then download the TPL file, because right now there is no simple way to import the client templates from the Google Tag Manager gallery. So go to template.tpl, then click three dots, download, and once you download this file, then go to your server container, templates. Then in the client templates section, click new, then three dots, import, and select that template right here. If it's properly imported, you will see data client visible right here. So click save. Then I will close this. Then let's go to clients and create that client. Click new, client configuration, data client by Stape. And then here we need to go to accepted path settings. Since I will be sending the sample request to /webhook, this is exactly what I need to enter. Don't enter this one right here if you're using same origin setup where your server-side container data is sent to this particular path. So this is part of the server-side container URL. Now this is the path where we are going to send the data, which is /webhook. If you used something else, then enter that other name in your client settings. So here I will add a path, which is /webhook, and then let's name this data client and save. When you're working with webhooks, you need to make sure that your container is published with this particular data client, because if you try to enable the preview mode and then send the request, you will get an error. So now let's publish this container. Let's say I will name this data client added, then publish. Then I'll close this, go to workspace, and yeah, then let's enable or refresh the preview mode by clicking this preview button. Once the preview mode is loaded, then I will initiate the request. So here I have sample data, then I will click send, and I will see the request 200, which is okay. If in your case you get some error, then it's possible that maybe your server's firewall or maybe your content delivery network is preventing this request from being received. So if that happens to you, then it's possible that you will need to ask your developer, or maybe you can do that, to tweak some firewall settings or some maybe anti-bot features in your content delivery network. But again, there are many different options here, different ways how to solve this, so I just cannot show you a universal way. What's important here is that your goal should be to get the 200 status right here. Now, if we go to the preview mode of server-side Google Tag Manager container, you will see that this request is not visible there, because this particular preview mode shows data only that is coming from your browser. But in this case, the request is coming from a third-party system. If you want to start seeing your test requests in the preview mode, you have two options. The first option is to go to the server-side Google Tag Manager container, click three dots, send requests manually, copy this header right here, and then include that header in the request. So in Postman that I am using here to send the mockup data, so in headers, I will add the value, and the key is this one right here. And you enter that key right here. So if I click send now, then I will see that event. However, keep in mind that this header right here, it refreshes and changes somewhere every 30 minutes. So you might need to change this.
By the way, I release Google Analytics or Google Tag Manager tutorials every week. If you want consistent flow of fresh knowledge and to stay up to date, then subscribe to this channel. It will help us a lot.
So if you are sending these mockup requests, then this approach is fine. However, if you were dealing with the actual point of sale system, then this approach would not work, because after 30 minutes, this header would expire, and then someone who has access to your point of sale system would need to update that header. So a workaround is to use a particular Stape feature. If you go to your Stape account, then open your container and go to Power-Ups, then here, look for SGTM preview header config. Click use, then enable it, and paste that header value right here. So you get it from the preview mode, you copy it, and then you paste it right here. Then click Save Changes and turn on I know what I'm doing. What will happen here is that from now on, all incoming requests, not only from you, but also from other visitors and all systems that send data to your server, those requests will be decorated with this particular value and they will start appearing right here. So it's useful, but of course you have to keep in mind that you will see many more requests coming in because all other visitors of the website might also start generating the events right here. So a good practice here would be that if you spot the event that you were looking for, then go to Stape and disable this as soon as possible. In that case, you would not pollute your server-side preview mode that much. But nevertheless, I will enable this right now just to show you how it works. I will click Save. Then in Postman, I will remove this header and then I will send the event. And here is that event right here. And if I go to event data, I will see the information that was parsed by the client. So I have customer data. I also have purchase details. So this information, or at least some of this information, could be sent to Meta. So let's configure the Facebook Conversions API tag. Let's go to our server container and then in templates, click Search Gallery in the Tag Templates section. Then enter Facebook and select Facebook Conversion API template by Stape and click Add to Workspace and Add. Once the template is added, then go to Tags, click New, Tag Configuration, and select the template right here. The first field is related to the event name. So if the incoming events are following Facebook's or Google Analytics 4 naming convention, let's say the event name is just purchase, then you can use inherit from the client. But if you have some custom events, then you can just select override and then choose the event right here. Then select the action source. In this case, we're tracking offline conversions. That's why we will not be using website. Instead, we will use, let's say, physical store. Then we have to enter API access token and Facebook pixel ID. You should get this information from the Facebook Events Manager. Go to eventsmanager.facebook.com, then select datasets, select your particular dataset, or in other words, pixel, and then go to settings. The dataset ID is the pixel ID, so copy that and go to the server container to enter it right here. Then let's go and find the Conversions API token. So just keep scrolling down until you find something mentioning token. And here we have it, generate access token, click that. Then I'll select just for this particular data set and generate access token. Here it is. Let's copy it and then paste it right here. Then let's scroll down and look at certain sections. For example, we have user data. Here you can add the user information, for example, email address. So click add property and you can select email right here. But of course, there are more options available. So let's fetch the email address. In my preview mode, if I click that request that I received, and if I go to event data, I have customer info, and then inside that customer info, I have email address. So if I want to access it, I will need to create a variable, which is customer info dot email address. So let's go here and click the variable button, and I will need to create a new variable. So click plus right here, variable configuration, and then select event data. Then we need to enter the path. So let's go to the preview mode and customer info dot and email address. Let's copy that and enter it right here. Then I will copy this and we'll give this variable a name. So let's say event data and like this. Click save. Then let's look what I have else available here. I have phone number, I have first name, last name. So let's say that I will enter just first name and last name. But if this was a real project, then I would add more information. But just to save some time, because this tutorial might be a bit long, I will skip some of these parameters. All right, so first name, let's do that. First name. And let's click this button. Then I will make a copy of this variable. So I will click this icon here. 3 dots, copy, and then let's change this to first underscore name. And then let's replace it right here. Click save. And now I will use this variable. And then let's do the same thing for the last name. So again, insert the variable, then go to this variable, click 3 dots, copy, and then last name. Then let's rename the variable and click save and insert that variable. So let's say that this is enough, but again, if you had more information, you could include that right here. Then we have the custom data, and here we can insert additional information, for example, order total or what kind of products were purchased. Below this video, I will post a link to the documentation of parameters that you can use. So you can go to custom data, and if we scroll down, we'll find the parameter called value. So this represents order total, or in other words, we will be sending the total value as the value together with the event. So let's go to server-side Google Tag Manager, then enter property name, then value, and let's create a variable which will again be the event data, and its name should be purchase details dot total value. So copy that. And then let's give this variable a name and click save. Then we can also send the information about the purchased products. For that, there is another parameter called contents. Contents should be an array, or in other words, a list that contains quantity, ID, item price. They also mention delivery category, but from my experience, I can say that at least these 3 would be nice to send. However, there is one problem. Currently, our list of products is using a different data structure, or actually the naming convention. Instead of ID, we have SKU. Instead of quantity, we have this. Instead of price, we have unit price. So we need to transform this into something that Facebook recognizes, which means this. Luckily, in Google Tag Manager, there is a template. It's a custom template, but we can definitely use that. So for now, I will just save this particular tag without a trigger. Maybe let's call it Facebook purchase from point of sale system. And then let's go to templates. Then in variable templates, click search gallery, and then search for array map and add this template. Click add to workspace, add, and then let's create a variable. So let's go to variables, then in user defined variables, click new, variable configuration, then array map. And first we have to provide an input, which is the actual array right here. So we first need to create a variable that returns the array, and this is the array. If we want to access it, we will need to create a variable which will use purchase details dot items, because this part is the array. So let's go to the variable and then click plus to create a new variable, then click plus variable configuration, and then select event data, and let's enter purchase details dot items. Then let's name this variable, let's say event data, and for example purchase details or something like that. Then click save. Then we have to map it. So if you want to map each parameter, you will have to create separate rows for each parameter. When I say parameter, I mean SKU is a parameter, then name, quantity, and so on. So we have to click add row, and here we have to enter the new name of the parameter. According to the documentation, the proper name should be just ID. So let's type ID. And here we have to enter the current name of the parameter. So basically we will tell this variable that, for example, SKU should be the ID. So like this, and then click add. Now repeat the same process for name, although I think name maybe is correct. No, we don't actually need the name at all. Now we have quantity. So let's go to quantity and enter the current name of the parameter, which is QTY. And then let's add one final row, which is unit price. So unit price is here, while the new value or the new name should be item price. So I will copy this and paste it right here. Click add, and then let's call this Facebook contents array and click save. By the way, did you know that I have a bunch of free ebooks on Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics? So if you want to better learn these topics, then click the link below the video, download those ebooks, and get started. Now let's go back to our Conversions API tag. In the tags section, click this tag, then let's continue editing it and add a new property which is called contents, and its value should be the array that we have just created, which is Facebook contents array. We can also add a currency because we have it right here, but if your shop always operates just in one currency, then you can just type currency like this, and then type that currency code like this. We can just double check that. So we have currency, and the value should be following the ISO standard 3-digit currency code. And if you click here, you will see that USD is also mentioned as the code. So this is working fine. All right, so it looks like the tag configuration part is done. Now the triggering. So we want this trigger to fire when the purchase event happens and the client name is data client, which means that this request was claimed by our custom data client. So let's go to Google Tag Manager, then triggering, then click plus, trigger configuration, and you can select either custom event or custom. It does not matter much. Let's say that I will select just custom, and I want to use only some events where the client name equals data client. This is case sensitive, so make sure that you enter what you have right here. I have lowercase c, so I will name it like this. And then the event name equals purchase. If you don't have the event name here, then go to choose built-in variables and select the event name there. So in my case, event name equals purchase, and we can call this purchase data client and click save. Then we can save this, and the configuration is pretty much done. Now we need to test this. In Facebook Events Manager, we have the test events section. And if we want to check the server's events, we can click here, then copy this test ID and include it in our Conversions API tag. So let's click here, then edit the tag, test ID right here, and then click save. Now let's click preview to refresh the preview mode. And then I will initiate a mockup request coming from the point of sale system. So here is my request example. I can click send. I see the 200 response. And if I go to the preview mode of Google Tag Manager, I see the event. I see that the tag has fired. I can click it. I can check the outgoing request, and this is what was sent to Facebook. Now I can go to the events manager. You won't actually see your event right here because based on my experience and how I understand this, it seems like the events coming from your server container, if the action source is physical store, they are not displayed in the test events section. So as a temporary workaround, just to see if the events are actually received, just for this testing session, you can temporarily switch to website, click save, then refresh the preview mode. Then let's get another request, status 200, the tag fired. Then the event should eventually appear right here. Sometimes it takes several seconds, but now I see that event. So it looks like this is working fine and our test has been successful. So let's roll back and first of all, change the action source back to physical store. Then don't forget to remove the test ID and click save. So now your setup looks fine. We have tested it. It works well. And the final step for you would be to click submit and publish these changes. And that's how you can track offline conversions with Facebook and server-side Google Tag Manager. If you found this video useful, hit the like button. That will help me understand what videos do you like and what should I create in the future. Also, if you want to learn more about Google Tag Manager or Google Analytics, then subscribe to this channel. My name is Julius, this is Analytics Mania, and I'll see you in the next video.